Filipino Grievances against Governor Wood. This document was not made by only one author but by a collective group of Filipino politicians. The draft of this document was headed and made by Jose Abad Santos and George Bacobo. Jose Abad Santos was born in San Fernando, Pampanga. He studied law in Northeastern University and a pensionado, the law which allowed qualified Filipino students to study in the United States. He was appointed as Undersecretary of Justice in 1921 but gave up due to cabinet crisis in 1923. He served as the Chief Legal Counsel of the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives in 1941. George Bakobo was born in Girona, Tarlac. He earned his Bachelor of Law degree in Indiana University under the Pensionado program of the colonial government. He was the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court from 1942 to 1944. The document was written on November 10, 1926, and it was approved by Commission on Independence on November 17, 1926. The attitude of Governor General Wood resulted to the sense of dissatisfaction on the part of the Filipino leaders. The undemocratic and oppressive conduct of Wood strained the relations, which led the constitutional representatives of the Philippines to state their vigorous objection against the arbitrary acts of the Governor General of the Philippine Islands. This critical situation during the American colonization commanded the Filipino officials to appeal to the judgment by producing this document to safeguard the rights and liberties of the Filipino people. Filipino people continually demanded independence from the Americans. American officials agreed and even appointed Filipino politicians in the government and promised that they would give the Filipinos their independence once they can finally prove their worthiness for the positions. Governor General Leonard Wood took over the governance of the Philippines and took a turn for the worse. He started making laws that deemed fit for him and had been a corrupt and an unlawful leader. A case of Ray Conley, an American detective involved in a bribery scandal. Despite the acts of Ray Conley, Wood just ordered him to be reinstated. Only 2 charges against him were proven and neither affects his efficiency as a police officer. The 2 charges are that he is keeping a woman and that he made certain false statements. The Governor General stated, Interior Secretary Jose P. Laurel, who suspended Conley, chose to leave because he did not want a dishonest man in his department. With Laurel's influence, several officials withdrew from their positions. Manuel L. Quezon, Manuel A. Rojas, Jose Abad Santos, Jose P. Laurel, Ernesto Laguda, Alberto Barredo, Rafael Corpus. In recent times, the U.S.-Philippines alliance has been made to publicly declare the commitments made by the U.S. under the Mutual Defense Treaty, should any Philippine vessel or aircraft be attacked anywhere in the South China Sea. It was made in the deliberation of a constitutional representative of the Philippines and was approved by the Commission of Independence during the same time span 1920s, making it a legal document of the occurrences under the rule of Governor General Wood and the protest of the Filipino people against his rule. The draft of the document was attributed to 2 leading lawyers, Jose Abad Santos and George Bacobo, making the document reliable for it is written by primary sources, which are Filipino officials and eyewitnesses during the time of the governance of Leonard Wood. The document contains formality and seriousness. The intention of the writers was direct to the point and colloquial language was nowhere to be found. The cohesion of the Filipino people prevails every time there are problematic circumstances that concerns the welfare of their fellow Filipino, not just in the era of the governance of Leonard Wood, but until today's time. If only the Filipino politicians were given the chance to do so back then, the Philippines would have been a successful country that provided the rights and needs of their countrymen.